Can you explain the 3 elements of creating a horror movie?
Yeah, it's a great question. That comes from Blake Snyder's idea about the monster in the house. Because Blake has this really wonderful, elegant way of thinking about genre that's different than the way most people think about genre. When most people think about genre, they think of sci-fi or Western or horror or this or that or the other. And Blake was like, well, that doesn't really help you write a screenplay. What's a way of thinking about genre, a way of sort of unified elements that's going to keep you focused on what matters for you to create a screenplay with core elements that has like a tuning fork that sounds like wonderful expression of that genre. So one of my favorites is that monster in the house genre, and that requires a monster of some sort, right? But it need not be like supernatural. It could even be like a psychopath or you know, something terrible. And then a house that's confined the protagonist so that it's so that they can't get away, right? So that the monster is chasing them, because if there's no house, then there's no tension, right? The stakes are there because they can't get away from the monster because they're stuck in the house together. And then the most fascinating part about it is the sin. That's the third part. And the why is sin. And it's because Monster in the House movies are a morality tale of when you do something bad, bad things happen. So, you know, the classic, you know, teenagers go into the woods to have premarital sex. Well, then the bad thing's going to happen. The slasher is going to come out and kill them, right? But without that sin, if they're just kind of, you know, a couple walking their dog by the woods and they get killed, it doesn't quite hit us in that same way, because we're all attracted to sin and we all sin to some degree or another. And so Monster in the House stories play on that vice, choice, and terrible response. And that's part of the titillation of great horror. And what's also really wonderful about what Blake thought about in that theory is that he then said, if you look at a movie like Jaws, where the monster is the shark and the house is the island where, you know, where the sort of the Amity Island, which was sort of like the Hamptons, but like, you know, this contained place. And then the sin was that they knew the threat was there, but they didn't shut down the town or didn't keep people away from the beach because it was a tourist town and they needed the money, or they wanted the money. The greed was the sin. So that makes that's such an interesting story and compelling in a different way than if it didn't have that element. But then Blake really ingeniously said a movie like Fatal Attraction, he would also put in that monster in the house thing. It's what? You know, certainly Jaws is like a horror movie, but how would you, Fatal Attraction is like this kind of psychological thriller. But let's look at the 3 elements. You've got the monster, which is Glenn Close playing this psychopathic woman who just was obsessed with this guy. You've got the house, was literally the end was the house, but it was really kind of the family unit, right? And the sin was adultery. So you have that same primal pattern of, you know, wanting something that you really shouldn't go after, and you do it anyway, and it brings out the monster, and then all hell breaks loose.
Great example. So that doesn't necessarily have to be a horror film. It can be a thriller. It could be a drama. I mean, did you see Dark Waters?
I didn't see Dark Waters.
Oh, okay. All right. We won't go into that one. Yeah.
But it absolutely can transcend what traditionally we think of as genres. It could be sci-fi, Western, it could be anything. The key is, to Blake's mind, which I thought was really great, was that core pattern. Chances of writing a script that makes a deeper impact on people is much more likely if you take those 3 elements and you sort of build your story around those elements, no matter what sort of external genre you'd place on it.
Does every genre have a certain amount of elements a writer must know?
Yeah, they do. It's because what we're doing is we're taking the audience on a very personal journey, even if it's a comedy or whatever it is. And the genre is the set of expectations that the audience has been promised for them to plunk down their money to see the story. So if I promise them a comedy and it's not funny, they're going to be pissed off, and rightly so. If it's a horror movie, it's got to be scary. If it's a thriller, it has to have tension. So a lot of beginning writers don't realize that. They're not seeing it as a relationship with the audience with these promises. And genres are all about promises and expectations. And sometimes beginning writers will go, oh, I've got this cool idea and it's kind of this genre and it's kind of or that genre and it's kind of like that. And it's like, yeah, that's really creative. And you are planning to alienate your audience, and it almost never works. There's some genres that can kind of play nice together. One that a lot of people try to do but very rarely get right is like horror comedy. Edgar Wright, I think, does it masterfully, better than anybody that I've seen. But it's really hard, and it's really hard because comedy is so particular, and so the comedy has to be great. And then the amount of fear and the scares has to be great. So you're talking about two really high bars that are particular. That's why most don't work well. And I think that, getting back to the other point, is that just early screenwriters, sometimes when I work with screenwriters, it's one of the ways that their creativity gets in the way. That it's like they're building a car and they put triangle wheels on the car, and the car's not going to go. It is going to be super creative. It's going to be really cool, and I honor them for coming up with those ideas, but it's not going to get them to where they want to go. So there's ways where you just, don't take the round wheel. You can make a big round wheel or a small round wheel, but make it a round wheel. And then the creativity on top of that, then you can go wild. So there's, that's a common problem that earlier writers have. They don't know which boxes can be totally crazy and need to be crazy and different, and which boxes are really more like an engineering problem. They just don't mess with that. And genre is absolutely one of those ones where you generally don't mess with it. You give them what they want and give them a spin on it, but it's really what they want. Even Tarantino, who has a deep understanding of movies and genre, one of his, I think, least successful movies was From Dusk Till Dawn that he made with Robert Rodriguez. And I think it was just because it was a horror crime film, and it literally started out as, I think, more of a crime film, and then took this crazy left turn into a vampire movie, which, even just saying it sounds like one of those, hey, wouldn't it be cool? There's a movie, and then it was like this, and then these vampires came out, and those guys were at a point in their career where they were killing it, and they're like, yeah, this is really cool, and they loved it, and and people, I don't know if it was profitable. Probably it might have been profitable or not. I don't think it was, or maybe over time it became profitable. But ultimately, I think it's a really good case study of an interesting idea, but a fairly low ceiling in terms of how many people are really going to love it. And I'm sure some people are like, I love that movie. It's my favorite. Okay, great. And if your objective is to deliver your voice in service to your audience as powerfully as possible for as broad of an audience as possible, stick to one genre and nail that genre and go take that genre to the new place. Give it a fresh spin on where it's going next.
The audience gaining trust, the screenwriter gaining trust of their audience, is it different than this genre promise?
No, it's the same. The one way to establish trust with the audience is if I've shown them a log line and it's this particular genre, and on page 1 they're seeing that it already feels like this genre on page 1. Now I'm establishing more trust. And if it's a comedy and there's nothing funny on page 1, problems.
And what about this, I hate to call it self-delusion, but I'll just use that for lack of a better term, of a writer thinking they're taking genre to new heights But they're not really doing that. They're mixing it. They're playing with it in ways that really aren't taking it to new heights.
So I love that question because to me, it feels like their intention is dead on and the execution is a mess. So if they have a high quality feedback loop system, it will tell them, it'll be like, look, I think I'm going to have some action, I'm going to have some comedy, and I'm going to have some of this, I'm going to have that. And the response to that sort of thing is like, look, it's kind of like a little bit of a lot of things, and I'd rather have a lot of one thing if they're getting high quality feedback. And then that person can go, because I thought it was kind of cool. Okay, well, I'm going to make it anyway if I'm an independent filmmaker, and then it'll play regional festivals or whatever, or not at all. But like, if you want to blow people away, then you do sort of less from a deeper place, and you fulfill that promise of genre, of these other things in a way that's profound and feels fresh and new. So it's the same but different. It's familiar but fresh. Genre is one of the best ways to do it. And so the person that's kind of like in that scatter place, or they've got all these mishmashes, again, it's fine, but they just have to just compare the apples to apples. I'm trying to, here's a comparable. Again, if they compare one apple that they're trying to do with 4 different apples, that's the problem, right? No, tell me one movie that had this particular genre that you loved, that was successful, that you'd love to have that sort of success with your screenplay. What's that apple? Now you create your apple, and then you figure out how you sort of can make them the same. So Quentin Tarantino tells this great story about when he was acting in the 80s, and he had this acting, and at that point in the 80s, you couldn't get, there was no internet, so couldn't get scripts online. You had to kind of like watch the movies and take notes. And so he's in this acting class, and he wrote down the scene from this movie and handed it to his acting partner, and goes like, we're going to act in this scene together. And the scene partner goes, well, hold on a second, this monologue isn't in the movie. And Quentin's like, what? Oh, geez, I'm sorry. He goes, no, this is better than what's in the movie, right? And so the takeaway there for the amateur writer is what he did inadvertently was realize that he, as a writer, was nailing at a really high level. So amateur writers can use, or any writer can, I use it all the time, to sort of compare apples to apples with any sort of element. If I'm trying to get better at, let's say, tension, or certain dialogue or genre, or whatever, I look at what I think is the standard for what I'm trying to do in another thing, and then I do my version of it, and I try to get the apple to the apple to be the same in my view, and then I get feedback. And are they looking at it and going, yeah, Brooks, I can't tell which one was written by you and which one was written by, Legend A or whatever. Now I'm good.
It's like fan fiction almost. I was doing an early version of it, maybe.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's a good way to look at it. That's exactly it. And if you can do fan fiction that's as good, you can get work that way if you can play in that universe in a way that's as powerful as the people that are already there. Sure.
So if I'm writing, let's say, a thriller, and I think, oh wow, I'm gonna this is the thriller genre, but I'm gonna take it to new heights. And let's suppose it's like a Wall Street corruption story, and somebody is the cleaning lady and she ends up seeing people shredding documents. But then the people that are really the bad guys turn out to be like reptilian society people. And that's not really taking it to a new height. That's mixing genres, because now I've got some sci-fi in there, and they don't need to be reptiles. You see what I'm saying? So I'm mixing, but my assumption is I think, I'm going to take this to new heights. But if I don't get that feedback from the feedback loop, then I'm going to be delusional in thinking that this is just like never been seen before.
So what I'll say about that is, I think that the word delusional is sort of a charged word that feels a little distracting, because in this hypothetical where somebody's like, I'm trying to take the genre to a new place, perfect. That's exactly what we're doing. That's exactly what everything is that we love has done. It takes something, not everything, but a lot of things that really break ground. It's because they're doing that. So that intention is dead on. And the truth is, it takes trial and error to be able to get that. It's like, I want to make the best new heist film ever, right? Awesome. That's what I'm trying to do. Where am I at now? So to say where I'm at now is delusional. It's like, okay, fine. But like, I mean, that's kind of a negative way to say it. It's just, look, you are where you are. And then you just kind of figure out, here's what I'm trying to get to. Here's where I am now. How do I sort of get there? And being gentle with ourselves and thinking of ourselves or other people as like delusional is kind of it's a distracting way of the matter-of-fact business of getting the apple to match the apple. And if and the impulse to go, the way that I'm going to take it to that next level is adding a bit of this genre, that genre. Maybe it's just, it's sort of like, you gotta get a feel for these things. You know what I mean? It's like sometimes some genres do have aspects that do play nice together, or harmonize really nice together. And some things kind of clash. There's sort of, somebody can do a website design or just a set of colors, and some people have a knack for like, ooh, those colors look nice together, or like the way you dress. Some people can do it, some people can't, some people like it, some people don't. But like, it's that set of artistic choices that harmonize together or not. And so, it's a matter of playing with which story elements end up harmonizing in the right way to get to that point where you're taking the genre to the next level. So I would never describe it as delusional when they're in the process of doing the damn thing that they should be doing.